Hey y'all, welcome back to What the OTPF. I'm Allie Powell. I'm a geriatric occupational therapist and business owner of the Good Life Occupational Therapy. We are using this as a digestible guide to be better clinicians, to help students when they're studying, or just to help people learn more about OTs and what we do. I'm hoping that if you're not an OT and you're here, that you've found this information helpful, but I'm also hoping that if you are, that you find it helpful to be a full scope clinician that knows exactly what we do and why it's important to know that. So without dilly-dallying too much, let's jump in, shall we? Today we're discussing another umbrella of domain, which is performance pattern. And I do love the way they word this in our OTPF, so I'm going to read it directly to you. The performance patterns include habits, routines, roles, rituals of individuals, groups, and populations. And these are influenced by context and time and can support or hinder the occupational performance. I think that piece is important. It can support or hinder, meaning that we have to look for both maladapted things and successful things in people's lives, which can be difficult at times. If you have not watched our video breaking down context, that was before this one, go back and check that out. Hopefully it'll help kind of support this one a little bit as well and why it's important for context. Let's jump in. Habits are automatic behaviors done randomly that can be good or bad. If you can think of good safety habits while using walkers, conversely, bad habits of tucking in their pelvis maybe to support themselves if they've got some weakness going on that can lead to bad posture, kyphotic, humps or all the things. So many bad habits that we can see, especially with safety. I don't want to get on a soapbox for that because I could talk about it forever. But both are important to note because as we're building better habits or implementing better things to get them towards their goals, a lot of what we do as OTs is acknowledging not only safety, but educating our patients for the benefit of their goals that we're trying to obtain. So if a patient has a lot of bad habits, we're going to do a lot of correcting, a lot of educating, a lot of, hey, we're not just going to come at them and be like, everything you're doing is wrong. Though sometimes I feel like kind of doing that in a nice way. But you can't just come at somebody and tell them their whole life is wrong or everything they've been doing ever is wrong. You have to approach it with, hey, I see that this may not be the best to obtain this goal. So let's figure out together the best way for you to be able to do that and build some new perspective and new goals to be successful. And I think that's a much more approachable version, but that's how we need to know why all these components are important so that we can address it the best way so that the patient can be successful. A routine is a system of steps. Think your morning routine, getting ready, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. We all kind of do the same thing. I know, like, I get up and I go to the bathroom and then I go back. Sometimes you go back to bed, don't do that. But you get up, you have your coffee or you make your breakfast or you just have this kind of set way of doing things, right? And so I feel like that's important when you have to then break down their routine to all the components that maybe they're having trouble with at that moment. And so the patient might just be like, well, I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna do everything I need to do, but they can't brush their teeth. They can't sit up by themselves. They can't put on their pants. They're having a hard time breaking down tasks and completing them all in a string of an order. Or maybe they have really low endurance and doing a 15-minute morning routine might sound easy up here, but executing it, not so easy. So knowing their routines that are important to them will help us then better plan for therapy as well so that we can break down those tasks, get them accomplished, and then work on endurance as well to encompass the whole thing. Furthermore, and next up is roles. And that's just part of your identity. This is the part that I really, really love because I feel like we as people do a good job of being like, oh, I'm just a worker. I'm just a mom. I'm just a whatever. And that's not true. We carry many hats and many roles. And I feel like it's important to realize that so do everyone else. We are more than just one thing. We are not just retired or I hear that a lot. I don't have a job. Or like a babysitter or whatever for your grandkids. You are still a parent if you have adult children that are living. You're still a sibling if they're still around as well. You're a friend. Sometimes people have volunteer roles that they do. Those are all very important to realize what they're getting back to. So if there's an injury or new ailment, like maybe those things are important to them. Maybe they lead a volunteer group and they're kind of the head of that committee, if you will, and it's really important to them. But then they also need to show up and be able to babysit for their grandkids too. Those are very different goals that are very much still from the same person. And I think that's really important to see that it's not just this one thing, but sometimes they do multiple things and wear many hats and need to be able to complete all of it. Lastly, we will touch briefly on rituals. These can be spiritual, cultural, or societal, and they kind of reinforce their values or beliefs. So let me kind of quote this here because I really like the way this was said as well. Just an example was that someone's ritual of praying on their knees every night. Maybe that's something that is very important to them and they are not about to not do that, but they fell and they have an injury and that's something that they're having an incredibly hard time doing now. We need to be able to break that ritual down for them into pieces so that we can help them potentially get back to doing that or finding a modification to do that if it's not possible to do it the exact same way they used to. So if it's important to our patients, it's important to us. And I think that's important to remember when we look at roles, rituals, and routines. I hope that breaks it down a little bit more for you and why I'm passionate about it. And we'll see you next time when we talk about performance skills. See you then.